Good evening, I'm Prasad Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. The COVID-19 active cases in the country could surpass 6,000 by tomorrow at the current infection rate. Malaysia today reported a record number of COVID-19 patients requiring intensive care at 108 cases, matching a record set on April 3rd. And that wasn't the only figure to match. 660 new COVID-19 cases were reported today, identical to the number reported yesterday. This puts the country's total active cases to a high of 5,772. Sabah continues to contribute the most number of new cases with 429, followed by Kedah with 113 and Selangor with 68 cases. 4 new deaths were also recorded today, all in Sabah. This brings the country's COVID-19 death toll to 167. With several areas placed under the CMCO, all those outside those areas have been reminded that the RMCO is still very much in place. Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob today announced that the Conditional Movement Control Order, which began in the Klang Sub-District, has been superseded by the CMCO announced for Selangor, which covers the whole state.
Oleh kerana kerajaan telah pun mengumumkan PKPB seluruh Selangor, dan Selangor tentu saja termasuk mungkin Kelang, maka SOP yang diumumkan untuk Mukim Kelang adalah terbatal. Jadi secara automatik SOP Mukim Kelang terbatal apabila kerajaan mengumumkan PKPB di seluruh negeri Selangor.
The minister also reminded those not in the CMCO areas to comply with the existing recovery MCO.
PKPP pemulihan masih lagi dilaksanakan, masih lagi berkuat kuasa, dan SOP yang diperkenalkan masih lagi berkuat kuasa, dan jika melanggar SOP tersebut juga boleh dikenakan tindakan. Jadi yang penting bukan kita perlu takut kepada frontliners semata-mata, tetapi diri kita perlu menjadi frontliners untuk melindungi bukan saja diri kita, keluarga kita, tetapi masyarakat di sekeliling kita.
Anwar Ibrahim's bid to consolidate power may have to wait because of COVID-19.
The scheduled audiences of both DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng and Amanah President Muhammad Sabu with the di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Shah at Istana Negara has been postponed. In a joint statement today, Lim and Muhammad said they had been summoned to have an audience with the Agong on October 14th for Lim and October 21st for Muhammad. However, yesterday, a senior private secretary of the ruler had informed them that both sessions had been postponed. They added that they will follow the instructions from the palace. No reason was cited by the two leaders as to why their audiences had been postponed. Yesterday, it was reported that the Agong had summoned various party leaders to Istana Negara after meeting PKR President Anwar Ibrahim. This was over Anwar's claim of having the parliamentary majority to be Prime Minister. In a press conference following his audience at the palace, Anwar claimed that he had the backing of more than 120 MPs. Meanwhile, UMNO President Ahmad Zaid Hamidi, who was set to have an audience with His Majesty at Istana Negara on Thursday, has also been informed that the meeting has been postponed to a date yet to be determined. Yesterday, Zaid said UMNO has yet to discuss the party's position on Anwar's claim. He said the matter was also not on the agenda of the UMNO Political Bureau meeting last night.
Following news of all the postponements, the reason for it was revealed by the palace earlier today. Due to the current COVID-19 situation in the country, the young di-Pertuan Agong, Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Shah, will postpone the audience granted to individuals and political leaders over the next 2 weeks. Comptroller of the Royal Household of Istana Negara, Ahmad Fadil Samsudin, was quoted by Reuters as saying that this was due to the Conditional Movement Control Order imposed in Selangor and Kuala Lumpur. He added that the new dates would be decided after the conditional MCO ends in 2 weeks. Sultan Abdullah was scheduled to meet with party leaders following opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim's audience yesterday, where the latter submitted documentation to His Majesty to show that he has the majority support of MPs to form a new government. Subsequently, at a press conference, Anwar claimed that he has the support of more than 120 MPs.
Meanwhile, we must also remember that Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has lost his majority and therefore would be appropriate for him to resign. But our focus, of course, again, our concern about COVID-19, about the need to ensure that Malaysian economy grow, and we have the impetus which is lacking at present, both in the way we handle the COVID-19 and also without a clear, definite plan of action.
However, following Anwar's press conference, the palace issued a statement that Anwar did not present the names of the lawmakers who backed him during the audience at Istana Negara. The statement also said that the Agong had advised the PKR president to abide by and respect the legal process. Veteran UMNO leader Tengku Razali Hamzah met the Agong several hours after Anwar's audience. The Gua Musang MP's political secretary Muhammad Lokman Ghani told Bernama that Tengku Razali was summoned in his capacity as the longest-serving MP and also as the individual who has worked with all Prime Ministers of Malaysia. He said the audience was granted as His Majesty wanted to hear Tengku Razali's opinion on the current political situation in the country. Lokman also said that the meeting had nothing to do with the 83-year-old politician's post as UMNO Advisory Council chairperson or as the party's representative.
Good news for Zulkifli Muhammad. He has recovered from COVID-19, but he has been advised to rest at home.
Religious Affairs Minister Zulkifli Muhammad Al-Bakri has beaten his COVID-19 infection and has been allowed to be discharged from his ward today. In a post on Facebook, Zulkifli confirmed his recovery, however said the Health Ministry has advised him to prioritise rest at home until the Conditional Movement Control Order is over. He said since he has been advised not to meet anyone, all meetings would be done through video conferencing. He added that he will continue to monitor all operations and reports from religious agencies under his purview from home. He also said any public announcements will be done through his social media channels. Zulkifli had tested positive for COVID-19 9 days ago on October 5th. In the 19 days prior, which is the incubation period of the disease, he had travelled across 5 states including Sabah and attended numerous public events. This included a National Security Council meeting on October 3rd that was also attended by numerous top government officials including Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin. His attendance at the meeting meant those closest to him were issued home surveillance orders and required to undergo a 14-day mandatory quarantine period, while others had gone into quarantine voluntarily as a precaution.
Coming up next, 5G is finally coming to iPhones. Apple has announced its iPhone 12 lineup, and in Malaysia it could cost you up to 6,000 ringgit, and that's without a charger and earphones in the box.
So now I'd like to show you the very first iPhone with 5G.
Apple on Tuesday unveiled its new line of smartphones, the iPhone 12. Finally jumping on the 5G bandwagon, hoping smartphone users access to faster mobile network speeds will convince them to trade up and keep a sales boom going into the end of the year. A revamped design brings a thinner, smaller and lighter iPhone to market with a tougher screen called Ceramic Shield developed by Corning Glass. There's also a faster chip inside for improved processing speeds. Also, consumers will be able to get more from a 5G phone. 5G is theoretically 10 to 20 times faster than phones operating on 4G networks.
Every decade, there's a new generation of technology that provides a step change in what we can do with our iPhones. The next generation is here. 5G will bring a new level of performance for downloads and uploads, higher quality video streaming, more responsive gaming, real-time interactivity, and so much more.
Apple, however, is late to the 5G upgrade cycle. Android devices made by the likes of Samsung have been on the market for months. Hoping to play catch-up and gain a competitive edge, Apple is launching in the US on the faster version of 5G mobile networks. Some rival Android devices run on the slower end of the 5G spectrum. With mobile networks in the US still far behind 5G networks in places like South Korea and China, Apple has to walk a fine line between exciting customers enough to want to upgrade without promising too much. In Malaysia, the iPhone 12 mini will start from 3,399 ringgit. The iPhone 12 will be priced starting 3,899 ringgit. The higher-end iPhone 12 Pro will start from 4,899 ringgit. And the top-end iPhone 12 Pro Max with 512 gigs of storage, topping out at 6,699 ringgit.
Peru opened the ruins of Machu Picchu for a single Japanese tourist.
Peru opened its famous archaeological site, Machu Picchu, for a single lucky tourist over the weekend. Japanese man Jesse Takayama had had his entry ticket in hand since March. But no thanks to the global health crisis, he has also been stranded in a town close to the ruins since then. However, on Saturday, thanks to a special request he submitted to Peru's Minister of Culture, he was able to set foot in the high-altitude citadel and live out his dream of seeing a World Heritage Site that dates back more than 500 years. Takayama had originally only planned to spend a few days in Peru, but was determined to stay and see it. The site will reopen in November, though officials have not given a specific date, and permit just 30% of normal capacity, or just under 700 people per day for national and foreign visitors.
US President Donald Trump returned to the campaign trail on Monday for the first time since he announced his COVID-19 diagnosis.
US President Donald Trump attended the outdoor rally in Sanford, Florida without a protective mask, but tossed them into the crowd, many of whom were standing shoulder to shoulder, most without protective face coverings. Supporters at the rally hailed Trump as a strong leader for getting back on the campaign trail so quickly, as he repeatedly talked about his recovery.
I think the virus has been extremely politicated. It has been used to lock down this country, which is what'll happen if Joe Biden is reelected.
I think it's about time he's setting the example. We need a herd immunity out there.
He's coming out to still support, even though people thought he was going to fail, and it just shows that he's a strong leader.
I'm not concerned. I've been working all the time, ain't got no COVID. I take vitamins, I eat healthy. I just ain't worried about it.
There are now just 3 weeks to go before the November 3rd election. The Republican president is seeking to change the dynamics of the race that national opinion polls and some key state polls show he is losing to Biden, who is 3 years his senior. The airport rally in Sanford indicated that Trump has not reshaped his campaign approach or outlook. Trump has worked for months to shift public attention away from the health crisis in America, but his own illness has put the spotlight squarely on his response during the closing stretch of the race, with Biden scaling up his attacks and reaching into states that normally lean Republican.
And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.